On December 13, 2025, the ancient ruins of Palmyra witnessed a modern tragedy. A routine meeting between American and Syrian forces turned deadly when a trusted Syrian officer opened fire. 3 Americans, Sergeant William Nathaniel Howard, Sergeant Edgar Brian Torres Tovar, and interpreter Ayad Mansour Sakat, were killed. 3 others were wounded, their lives forever changed. It was an insider attack, a green-on-blue tragedy that shattered trust. These were the first American combat deaths since the fall of the Assad regime. Families at home struggled to comprehend the loss, not to an enemy, but to a supposed ally. Palmyra became a symbol of the dangers within fragile alliances. America's war in Syria began in 2014, not to topple Assad, but to destroy ISIS. US House Special Forces partnered with Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, reclaiming territory from ISIS. By 2019, the ISIS caliphate was gone, but the threat endured as ISIS shifted to insurgency. The US mission evolved, now focused on preventing ISIS's return and securing vital oil fields. The cost of staying and leaving had never been clearer. The fall of Baghouz was a milestone, but not the end of ISIS. The group adapted, returning to guerrilla tactics, assassinations, bombings, and ambushes, sleeper cells embedded in local communities waiting to strike. ISIS maintained a global reach, inspiring attacks far beyond Syria. In 2025 alone, at least 11 plots against American targets were linked to ISIS. Operation Hawkeye Strike, launched after Palmyra, revealed the group's enduring strength. Over 70 sites were targeted, exposing a well-organized insurgency. The threat was no longer about territory, but about preventing Syria from becoming a launchpad for global terror. The Palmyra attack proved ISIS could still penetrate security and kill Americans. The ghost of the caliphate haunted every decision. The collapse of Assad's regime in 2024 brought a new government to Damascus, led by President Ahmed al-Sharaa. For the first time, the US had a willing partner in Syria's central government. American and Syrian forces coordinated directly against ISIS, sharing intelligence and expanding operations. But the new government was built on shaky ground, its security forces a patchwork of ex-rebels and regime remnants. Vetting was weak, and extremist infiltration was rampant. After Palmyra, Syria's Interior Ministry arrested 5 suspects, but the damage was done. The attacker had been flagged for ISIS sympathies just a day before, but the system failed to act in time. The tragedy exposed the risks of relying on a fragile partner. America's ally was willing, but dangerously vulnerable. The weaknesses of Syria's new institutions became America's own. The partnership offered opportunity, but also immense risk. Palmyra was a warning: alliances in war-torn states are always precarious. Washington's response to Palmyra was swift and overwhelming. President Trump and Defense Secretary Hegseth promised consequences and delivered Operation Hawkeye Strike. Over 9 days, US and Jordanian forces launched the largest campaign in Syria since the ISIS war's peak. Airstrikes and ground raids targeted ISIS sanctuaries across the desert: Ma'adan al-Hamad and Jabal al-Amur. A-10s, F-15s, Apaches, and HIMARS rained destruction on enemy positions. 70 targets hit, over 100 sites destroyed, and dozens of militants killed or captured. The operation aimed not just for revenge, but to cripple ISIS's ability to strike again. Follow-up raids eliminated senior leaders, including an al-Qaeda figure linked to the Palmyra attack. CENTCOM declared, There is no safe place for those who attack Americans. The campaign showed US power, even with a small footprint, but it also revealed how deeply ISIS remained entrenched. Retaliation was necessary, but not enough to end the threat. The war's next phase would be even more complex. The Palmyra attack exposed the deadly risk of relying on partner forces. America's strategy, work by, with, and through locals, keeps US troop numbers low, but trust is fragile. The attacker was a vetted member of Syria's security, flagged for ISIS ties just a day before. Bureaucracy moved too slowly. Tragedy struck before action could be taken. The failure raised urgent questions about vetting and force protection in a country rife with shifting loyalties. Friend and foe are hard to distinguish. Green-on-blue attacks corrode trust, making every joint mission fraught with suspicion. After Palmyra, US forces tightened security, but at the cost of collaboration. The enemy within had poisoned the partnership. Building rapport became harder, and the mission more dangerous. The challenge: stay close enough to advise, distant enough to survive. The cost of a single failure was measured in lives, and trust lost. America's greatest vulnerability was now inside the wire. For veterans of Iraq, Syria's war feels eerily familiar. The US once tried to build a reliable Iraqi security force, facing corruption, sectarianism, and insider attacks. Now in Syria, the same challenges repeat: fragile partners, imperfect vetting, and the ever-present risk of betrayal. The hope is for a partnership like the one that eventually stabilized Iraq, but Palmyra is a reminder of the early bloody setbacks. Insider attacks are not just tactical failures, they wound morale and trust. The dilemma: advisors must build close ties, but also keep their guard up. Building a capable partner force takes years, not months. The internal weakness of the partner state is the greatest threat. Syria's path forward will be as long and uncertain as Iraq's. The lessons of the past are being relearned at a high cost. Palmyra forced a reckoning in Washington. The enduring ISIS threat argues for staying in Syria, but every resource spent there is one not used elsewhere. The Trump administration wants to pivot to great power competition, but Syria keeps pulling America back. The deaths of Howard, Torres Tova, and Sakat are a stark reminder. Even small missions carry grave risks. Their families bear the heaviest burden, while leaders debate the mission's worth. Is preventing a future attack worth the certainty of casualties now? The Palmyra attack is a microcosm of post-9/11 wars. Persistent threats, fragile partners, and agonizing trade-offs. Victory is never final, and alliances are always fraught. The cost of vigilance is high, and the shadow of Palmyra will linger. America's path in Syria remains uncertain, shaped by sacrifice and hard choices.